The phone slipped in my hand. I caught it before it hit the floor, but my fingers were shaking so badly the screen blurred. Around me, the terminal breathed, a mechanical wheeze of announcements and rolling luggage and footsteps that never stopped. The blue plastic bench beneath me was cold. It seeped through my jeans, through the exhaustion in my bones, straight into the fear I'd been carrying for 3 days. Jin's forehead burned against my neck. I adjusted him in my arms, careful not to wake him, and pressed my lips to his damp hair. 4 years old, 28 pounds, a fever that wouldn't break. His little fingers curled into my shirt, and I felt the trust in that grip like a knife. "Please," I whispered to no one, to everyone, to the fluorescent lights humming overhead like tired insects. The terminal stretched around us. Rows of empty benches, vending machines with cracked glass, a janitor pushing a mop in slow circles. Outside the tall windows, the city bled neon into the night. Red, blue, gold, all of it distant, all of it indifferent. My belly tightened. Not a contraction. Not yet. Just the pressure of 5 months. The weight of another life I couldn't afford to protect. I pulled my coat tighter, hiding the swell beneath cheap fabric and desperation. An Omega, pregnant, alone in a transit terminal at 11 at night with a sick pup and $17 in my account. The math didn't work. It hadn't worked for weeks. I scrolled through my contacts. My brother's name sat at the top, pinned there for emergencies. Disqualified. I typed fast, vision blurring, breath catching in my throat. "I need help. Please. I'm stranded and my pup is sick." My thumb hovered over his name. Over Miho. Over the person who'd told me 6 months ago that I'd made my choice and now I had to live with it. I pressed send. The whooshing sound felt final. I locked the screen and hugged Jin closer, rocking slightly, counting his breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fever made them shallow. Made them wrong. "We're okay." I lied into his hair. "We're going to be okay." The phone buzzed. Relief flooded so fast it hurt. I fumbled the screen awake, already typing thank you, already apologizing, already promising I'd pay him back. Unknown. "Where are you?" My breath stopped. Not Miho's number. Not his area code. Not his clipped, disappointed texting style. I stared at the message, at the blank profile picture, at the way the words sat there like a trap. Wrong number. Oh God. Wrong number. My fingers moved on instinct, typing an apology, trying to unsend what couldn't be unsent. But before I could finish, another message appeared. Unknown. "Are you alone?" The terminal lights flickered. Or maybe that was just my vision narrowing. I pulled Jin tighter, instinct screaming louder than logic. Someone was asking. Someone knew I'd sent that message. Someone was reading my desperation like a headline. I should have ignored it. Should have blocked the number. Should have stood up and walked away from the bench and the phone and the mistake that was growing teeth. Instead, I typed the truth. Yes. The phone went dark in my hand. Jin coughed. A wet, rattling sound that made my chest seize. I rubbed his back, whispering promises I couldn't keep, and waited for a reply that would either save us or swallow us whole. If you've ever felt trapped by a choice you didn't mean to make, if you've ever needed help and didn't know who to ask, then you understand why I didn't run. Stay with me. This gets darker before it gets light. The phone lit up in the dark. I'd been staring at it for 7 minutes, counting seconds, feeling Jin's fever pulse against my chest like a second heartbeat. The terminal had thinned. Fewer travelers, more shadows, the kind of emptiness that made danger feel closer. Unknown. "What's your location?" My stomach dropped. I typed fast, fingers clumsy with panic. "I'm sorry. Wrong number. Please ignore. Send. Delete the thread. Block the unknown. You said your pup is sick." I froze. Because the tone felt male, felt cold, felt precise, hadn't let it go. Hadn't dismissed me as a mistake or a scam. He'd read the words. He'd remembered them. "It was a mistake," I typed. "I meant to text someone else." Unknown. Who? The question landed like an interrogation. Who was I supposed to text? Who was supposed to care? The answer tasted bitter. My brother. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I watched them pulse, my heart matching the rhythm. Unknown. Did he answer? No, he hadn't, because I'd sent it to the wrong number. Because even if I'd sent it to the right one, Miho had made his position clear. I was on my own. I'd gotten pregnant by someone I wouldn't name, someone who'd disappeared, and that made me reckless, stupid, unworthy of help. I didn't type that. I typed nothing. Unknown. How sick is your pup? Jean shifted in my arms, whimpering. His skin was too hot, his breathing too thin. I'd given him the last of the children's fever reducer 8 hours ago. The pharmacy wouldn't take my Max card. The clinic wouldn't see us without insurance. High fever, I typed, shame flooding behind my ribs. I can't. I don't have. I stopped, deleted it. What was I doing? Confessing to a stranger? Begging someone whose name I didn't even know? Unknown. Can you get to a hospital? No. The truth came out too fast. Too honest. I waited for judgment. For the conversation to end. For the stranger to block me and move on with his life. Instead, he asked the question that changed everything. Unknown. Are you afraid of alphas? My breath caught. The phrasing was deliberate. Clinical. Like he already knew what I was. What my instincts would say. Should I be? I sent back. The reply came instantly. Unknown, not of me. Stay where you are. The phone went silent. Jean coughed again, small body shaking. I stared at the screen, at the stranger's words, at the command buried inside concern. And then the terminal doors opened. Someone was coming. I didn't know if I should run or pray. If you've ever waited for a stranger to decide your fate, don't look away. This is where trust becomes a gamble. The message appeared during a contract negotiation. Kale ignored it. He ignored most things that weren't relevant to the $50 million logistics merger he was dismantling with surgical precision. The lawyer across from him was sweating. Good. Fear made people agreeable. His phone buzzed again. He glanced down, jaw tightening. Unknown number. He should have blocked it. Should have deleted it. But the preview text caught his eye. I need help. Please. I'm stranded and my pup is sick. Kale stared at the words. At the desperation compressed into a single line. Wrong number, obviously. Probably a scam. Definitely not his problem. He set the phone face down on the mahogany table and returned his attention to the lawyer, who was stammering through a revised clause. The office around them was dark wood and leather, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city's glittering spine. Everything in this room cost more than most people earned in a year, including his time. The phone buzzed a third time. Kale picked it up, irritation spiking. But the message stopped him cold. I'm sorry. Wrong number. Please ignore. Something in the phrasing, the fear beneath the apology, made him pause. He typed before he could think better of it. You said your pup is sick. The lawyer was still talking. Kale wasn't listening. He watched the 3 dots appear on his screen. Watched them hesitate. Watched someone on the other end debate whether to answer. It was a mistake. I meant to text someone else. Who? My brother. Brother. Not mate. Not pack. The isolation in that single word landed heavier than it should have. Kale leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight. Across from him, the lawyer finally stopped talking. Are we done here? Kale asked, not looking up from his phone. We haven't finished. You'll accept the terms, Kale said. It wasn't a question. Sign by morning or the offer expires. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with one hand, still holding his phone in the other. The lawyer scrambled to gather papers, to protest, but Kale was already moving toward the door. Did he answer? No response. He typed again. How sick is your pup? This time the answer came faster, more desperate. High fever. I can't. I don't have. The message cut off. Deleted, probably. Shame had a specific rhythm. Kale recognized it. He walked through the hallway of his building. Past security, past assistants who straightened when he passed, past glass walls that reflected a man who rarely made impulsive decisions. Can you get to a hospital? No. One word. No explanation. No plea. Just the stark truth of someone who'd run out of options. Kale stopped at the elevator, finger hovering over the call button. He should end this conversation. Block the number. Return to the negotiation. There were 1,000 reasons to walk away. Instead, he asked the question that would unravel everything. Are you afraid of alphas? He waited. The city stretched below, indifferent and cold. When the reply came, it was careful. Guarded. Should I be? Kale stepped into the elevator, already calling his driver. Not of me. Stay where you are. Power isn't just about money. It's about choosing who you protect. And sometimes that choice finds you in a message you were never supposed to receive. If you've ever wondered what makes someone break their own rules, keep reading. This alpha is about to learn. The doors opened with a hydraulic hiss. I watched a man step through, tall, dark coat, shoulders that moved with purpose. The terminal's fluorescent lights caught the angles of his face, sharp and cold, before he scanned the space with the efficiency of someone used to finding what he wanted. His eyes landed on me. Everything stopped. Not the terminal. Not the announcements crackling overhead. But something inside me. Some instinct that recognized danger and authority and an alpha who didn't ask permission to take up space. He walked toward me, each step deliberate. Jean stirred in my arms, whimpering, and I held him tighter. Are you the Omega who texted me? His voice was low, precise, the kind that expected answers. I nodded because words had abandoned me. His gaze dropped to Jean, then lower, to the way I held my coat closed, to the barely visible swell of my belly beneath. Something flickered in his expression, not quite softening, more like recalculating. I'm not here to hurt you, he said, and somehow that made it worse, because it meant he understood I was afraid, that he could hurt me if he wanted. Stand up. I did, legs shaking. Jin's weight shifted, and I adjusted him against my chest, feeling the fever radiate through his clothes. The alpha, because there was no mistaking what he was, watched the movement with intensity that felt intrusive. He reached out. I flinched. His hand stopped mid-air, fingers curling back into a fist. For a moment we stood there, me trapped between the bench and his presence, him frozen in whatever instinct had made him reach for us. What's his name? He asked instead. Jean, I whispered. The alpha's jaw tightened. I'm Kale. No last name. No title. No explanation for why he'd come or what he wanted. Just a name that sounded like steel. Jean coughed, that wet, wrong sound that had been getting worse. Kale's attention snapped to him, sharp and immediate. When he looked back at me, his expression had changed. How long has he been sick? 3 days. The fever won't. It won't break. Has he seen a doctor? Shame burned hotter than Jin's fever. I couldn't. The clinic wouldn't. Come. He turned, already moving toward the exit. Wait. Panic clawed up my throat. Where? Kale stopped, glanced back. Somewhere warm, he said. And with medicine. I don't know you. No. He studied me with those winter-glass eyes. But you asked for help. And I'm here. The logic was simple. Dangerous. Jean coughed again, body shaking, and I felt the choice narrow to something binary. Trust the stranger or watch my pup suffer. I followed. The car waiting outside was black, sleek, expensive in a way that made my cheap coat feel like a costume. Kale opened the back door, stood aside. I hesitated. Please, he said, and the word sounded foreign in his mouth, like he didn't use it often. I climbed in. The leather seats were soft, warm. Jean settled against me, and I felt the first crack in my armor, the relief of sitting in heated comfort instead of cold plastic. Kale slid into the front passenger seat, already on his phone. I need Dr. Chun at the residence. Immediately. Pediatric fever. 3 days, no treatment. A pause. I don't care what she's doing. Tell her it's mine. He hung up, met my eyes in the rearview mirror. What's your name? River, I said quietly. Kale nodded once. We'll take care of Jean River. I promise. The car pulled away from the terminal, and I watched the blue benches disappear behind us. I didn't know if I'd just been saved or claimed. Maybe both. If you've ever gotten into a car with a stranger because you had no other choice, you know this feeling. The next chapter changes everything. Don't miss it, because Jin's fever isn't the only thing burning. The building rose like a fortress. Glass and steel cutting into the night sky. Guards at the entrance who straightened when they saw Kale's car. One opened my door before I could reach for the handle. I clutched Jean tighter, overwhelmed by the sudden attention. By the way, everyone moved around Kale like he was gravity itself. This way, Kale said, not waiting. I followed through lobbies that smelled of expensive flowers and leather polish, into an elevator with mirrors that showed me exactly what I was. Exhausted, underfed, out of place. My coat hung wrong. My jeans had a stain on the knee. Next to Kale's tailored suit, I looked like proof of everything I'd survived. The elevator opened directly into an apartment. Not an apartment. Penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Furniture that belonged in magazines. Space that echoed when we walked through it. I stopped just inside, suddenly aware of my shoes on the pristine floor. Keep going, Kale said, gentler than before. He led me to a guest room, huge bed, soft lighting, attached bathroom. I lowered Jean onto the mattress carefully, brushing damp hair from his forehead. His fever had spiked. I could feel it in the air around him. A knock at the door. That's Dr. Chan, Kale said, stepping aside to let a woman in. 50s, kind eyes, medical bag already open. She examined Jean with efficient compassion. Asking questions I answered with my voice shaking. Temperature. Symptoms. Duration. When she pressed the stethoscope to Jin's chest, I held my breath. Respiratory infection, Dr. Chan said finally. Early pneumonia. You brought him just in time. The relief hit so hard my knees buckled. Kale caught me by the elbow, steady as stone. Careful. I'm fine, I lied. Dr. Chun prepared a shot, administered it with practiced gentleness. Jean barely stirred. She left antibiotics, instructions, her personal number. When she packed her bag, she looked at me with something too close to pity. Rest, she said. Both of you. Then she was gone, and it was just me, Jean, and Kale standing in the doorway like a question I didn't know how to answer. You're pregnant, he said, not asking. I stiffened. Yes. How far? 5 months. His jaw tightened. And alone. Yes. Silence stretched between us, thick with things I couldn't name. Kale's gaze moved from Jean to my belly to my face, calculating something I wasn't privy to. You won't be, he said finally. I laughed, brittle. You don't know me. I know enough. He straightened, adjusting his cufflinks in a gesture that felt like armor. You asked for help. From my brother. Who didn't answer. Kale's eyes met mine, cold and certain. I did. He left before I could respond, the door clicking shut behind him. I sank onto the bed next to Jean, listened to his breathing even out, and tried to understand what had just happened. Safety felt like a trap, but I was too tired to escape. If you've ever accepted help from someone dangerous because you had no other choice, then, safety always comes with a price. And Kale? He's about to set his terms. Next chapter, the world finds out. The morning came with coffee I didn't make and clothes that fit. I found them folded on a chair. Soft fabrics, maternity cut, tags still attached. Expensive. The kind of expensive that made my throat tight. Jean slept peacefully for the first time in days, his fever broken, his breathing steady. I stood in the doorway watching him, afraid that if I looked away, this fragile safety would dissolve. He's better, I spun. Kale stood in the hallway, dressed in a different suit, hair still damp from a shower. He looked at Jean with something I couldn't quite read. Dr. Chan said the antibiotics are working. I managed. Good. He checked his watch. I have a meeting. You should eat. I can't stay here. Kale's gaze lifted to mine. Why not? Because I didn't belong. Because people like me didn't sleep in penthouses or wear clothes with four-digit price tags. Because accepting this meant owing something I couldn't repay. I don't even know you, I said instead. Then get to know me. He said it like the solution was obvious. Breakfast is ready. Jean will sleep for another hour. He left before I could argue. The kitchen was marble and chrome, sunlight pouring through windows that overlooked half the city. Food waited on the counter, eggs, toast, fruit cut into careful shapes. I ate standing up, too anxious to sit, too hungry to refuse. Kale returned carrying a coat. We're going out. What? No. I can't, Jean. Security will watch him. Dr. Chen's nurse is upstairs. His tone left no room for negotiation. You need air. And I need to handle something. The something turned out to be a cafe 3 blocks away. I felt the stares the moment we walked in. Kale's presence commanded attention. People shifted in their seats, conversations paused, eyes tracked our movement to a corner booth. I sat with my back to the wall, hyper-aware of my borrowed clothes, of the way Kale ordered for both of us without asking what I wanted. The whispers started before our coffee arrived. Is that his? Didn't know he had a mate. Look at him, definitely pregnant. Using a pup to secure a bond. My hands shook around the cup. Kale noticed. He always noticed. Ignore them, he said. They think I trapped you. They think what I allow them to think. He took a sip of his espresso, unbothered by the attention. And right now, I'm allowing them to see that you're under my protection. Protection. The word tasted bitter. Or ownership? His eyes sharpened. There's a difference. A man approached our table, mid-40s, expensive watch, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Kale, didn't expect to see you here with company. Marcus. Kale didn't stand, didn't smile back. Marcus's gaze slid to me, lingering on my belly in a way that made my skin crawl. Moving fast, aren't we? Using a pup to leave. Kale's voice dropped 10 degrees. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. I won't ask twice. Something in Kale's tone made Marcus step back, made the entire cafe go silent. Marcus forced a laugh, hands raised in mock surrender, but his eyes promised retaliation as he walked away. My coffee had gone cold. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. This will ruin you, I whispered. Kale leaned back, studying me with that calculating intensity. It won't. They think I'm using Jean to trap you. They think what I'll correct. He finished his espresso, set the cup down with precision. You're not the liability here, River. They are. The walk back was torture. More stairs, more whispers. Someone took a photo. By the time we reached the penthouse, my chest felt too tight, my breathing too shallow. Jean was awake, playing with blocks the nurse had brought. He looked up when I entered, smiled, and my heart cracked open. Mama, he said, reaching for me. I held him, buried my face in his hair, and tried not to cry. Kale stood in the doorway watching. This is just the beginning, he said quietly. It gets worse before it gets better. Then let me leave, before it destroys you. No. The finality in that single word felt like a door slamming shut. If you've ever been judged for surviving the only way you knew how, you understand this moment. But Kale? He's about to show them exactly what happens when you threaten what's his. Stay close, the retaliation is coming. The article appeared at midnight. I found it because I couldn't sleep, because my phone still worked, because curiosity and dread made a toxic combination. The headline was careful, legal, vicious. Business mogul Kale Anderson's mystery Omega. Scandal or strategic move? They'd used the photo from the cafe. Me visible in profile, belly obvious, Jin's empty car seat beside me. The article speculated, questioned timing, suggested gold digging and manipulation. By morning, it had spread across 3 news sites and countless social media threads. I sat on the guest room floor, phone clutched in shaking hands, reading strangers dissect my life with surgical cruelty. The door opened. Kale stood there, already dressed despite the hour, phone in hand. He looked at me on the floor, at the tears I was too tired to hide, and something dangerous settled in his expression. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry. I should leave. I should." "No." He crossed the room, crouched to my level. "This isn't your fault. They're destroying you because of me. They're trying." His jaw tightened. "They'll fail." He stood, already dialing. I watched him pace, phone pressed to his ear, voice cold and precise. "I want the publisher's name. I want the journalist's sources. I want everything." A pause. "I don't care what time it is. You have 2 hours." He made 7 more calls, each one shorter, each one sharper. By dawn, the article had been retracted. By noon, the publisher had issued an apology. By evening, the journalist had been fired. But Cale wasn't done. "Come with me," he said. I followed him to his office, the one from his building, all dark wood and leather and floor-to-ceiling windows. His assistant waited, pale and nervous. On the desk sat a folder. "Marcus Chun," Cale said, flipping it open. "The man from the cafe. He's the one who leaked your information to the press." My stomach dropped. "How do you?" "I always know." He handed the folder to his assistant. "Execute it." "Sir, this will execute it." The assistant left. Cale poured himself a drink, offered me water I couldn't swallow. "What did you just do?" I asked. "Marcus's company has a contract with mine, worth 40 million. Had." He took a sip. "As of 10 minutes ago, that contract is void. His investors will pull out by morning. His company will collapse by the end of the week." The room tilted. "You destroyed him. I protected you." "That's not protection, that's—" I couldn't finish. Couldn't name the thing that terrified and awed me in equal measure. Cale set his glass down, turned to face me fully. "People like Marcus see vulnerability as opportunity. They see an Omega with a pup and think prey." His eyes were winter cold. "I'm teaching them to see a mistake. What if he retaliates?" "He won't." Cale's certainty was absolute. "Because everyone now knows what happens when you come after what's mine." The possessive phrasing should have frightened me. Should have triggered every warning instinct. Instead, something in my chest loosened, warmed. "I'm not yours," I said quietly. Cale crossed the room, stopped close enough that I had to look up. "Not yet," he agreed. "But you're under my protection. And that means anyone who hurts you answers to me." Jin's laughter echoed from the other room. Playing with the nurse, healthy and safe. I thought about the terminal, about the cold bench and the fever and the message I'd sent by mistake. "Why?" I asked. "Why are you doing this?" Cale studied me for a long moment. "Because power is a waste if it doesn't protect," he said. "And because someone hurt you enough that you thought a wrong number was your last hope." My breath caught. "I won't cage you," he continued, "but I won't let you be hunted either." The city stretched beyond the windows, glittering and indifferent. But inside this room, inside this moment, something shifted. Safety didn't feel like a trap anymore. It felt like a choice I hadn't known I could make. If you've ever needed someone to fight for you when you couldn't fight for yourself, you know this feeling. But protection has a price, and Cale's about to name it. Next chapter. The confrontation that changes everything. I found Cale on the balcony 3 nights later. Jean was asleep, finally comfortable in the room we'd been occupying for a week. A week of borrowed safety. A week of watching Cale dismantle anyone who dared question my presence. A week of feeling gratitude and resentment twist together until I couldn't breathe. "You can't keep doing this," I said. He didn't turn. "Doing what?" "Controlling everything. Destroying people. Making decisions about my life without asking. I'm protecting you." "No." I stepped closer, anger finally louder than fear. "You're owning me. There's a difference." Cale turned then, eyes sharp in the city lights. "I've given you shelter, medical care, safety. What exactly am I taking?" "My choice." The words broke something open. "You never asked if I wanted this. You decided. You commanded. You assumed I'd just Just accept being your charity case or your possession or whatever this is. Is that what you think you are? I don't know what I am. My voice cracked. I'm an Omega who sent a desperate text to a stranger. You answered. You helped. And now I'm trapped in this gratitude and fear, and I can't tell where one ends and you begin. Silence stretched between us. The wind tugged at my hair, at the edges of Kale's shirt. Below, the city breathed indifferent. What do you want me to say? Kale asked quietly. The truth. Why did you answer? Why did you come to that terminal? Why are you destroying your reputation for someone you don't even know? His jaw tightened. You want the truth? Yes. I had a sister. The words came slowly, like pulling glass from a wound. Younger. Omega. She sent me a message once. Said she needed help. He paused. I was in a meeting. I didn't answer. My chest constricted. By the time I called back, it was too late. Her mate had. He stopped, breathed carefully. She's gone. And I didn't answer. Kale. So when your message came through, I saw her. I saw another Omega asking for help. And I couldn't. His voice fractured. I couldn't ignore it again. I felt tears on my cheeks without realizing I'd started crying. I'm not your sister. No. He looked at me then, really looked. You're not. But you're someone who needed help. And I had the power to give it. That's not a reason to tie yourself to me. To risk everything for. It's exactly the reason. He stepped closer. I don't need you to understand it. I need you to accept it. Jin's voice called from inside. Mama. I turned instinctively, then stopped. Looked back at Kale. I can't stay here forever, I said. I'm not asking forever. His eyes held mine. I'm asking for now. Until you're safe. Until the pup you're carrying is born. Until you have actual choices instead of just survival. Jin appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. When he saw Kale, he smiled. Walked over without hesitation. Reached up. Kale lifted him like it was natural. Like he'd done it 100 times. Jin laid his head on Kale's shoulder, already drifting back to sleep. Something in my chest broke open and healed simultaneously. Okay, I whispered. For now. Kale nodded, holding my son, holding my gaze. For now. If you've ever had to choose between pride and safety, between independence and acceptance, you know how hard this is. But the hardest part? Admitting you don't want to leave. Next chapter. Kale makes his claim public. The pack meeting was mandatory. I didn't want to go. Didn't want to stand in front of alphas and betas and omegas who'd already judged me through screens and whispers. But Kale insisted. And his insistence had a gravity I couldn't fight. You don't have to speak, he said, adjusting Jin's jacket. Just stand with me. They hate me. They fear me. He looked up, eyes steady. There's a difference. The meeting hall was massive, vaulted ceilings, rows of seats arranged in a semicircle, a raised platform at the center. People filled the space, conversations dying as we entered. I felt every gaze like a physical weight. Kale walked to the platform. I followed, Jin's hand in mine, my other hand instinctively protecting my belly. The room waited. Most of you know me, Kale began, voice carrying without effort. You know my business, my pack standing, my resources. He paused. What you don't know is why I've chosen to extend protection to River and his pups. Someone in the back shouted. We know why. He's using. Enough. Kale's tone cut like a blade. The room went silent. He continued. River sent me a message by mistake. A desperate plea for help when his pup was sick and he had nowhere to turn. Kale's gaze swept the crowd. How many of you would have answered? Silence. How many of you would have opened your homes, paid for medical care, protected him from those who see vulnerability as something to exploit? More silence. That's what I thought. Kale's jaw tightened. River didn't ask for my resources. He didn't seek me out. He made a mistake and I chose to answer. That choice is mine. The protection I offer is mine to give. His eyes found me held. They are mine to protect. The declaration echoed through the hall. Mine. The word felt too big, too permanent, too much like a vow. Someone stood, an older alpha, decorated with pack honors. And what happens when he leaves? When the novelty wears off? Kale turned to him. That's his choice, not yours. You're risking pack resources for a principle. Kale's voice hardened. That power should protect, not exploit. That vulnerability shouldn't be met with cruelty. That an Omega with pups deserves safety without shame. He let that sink in. If you disagree, there's the door. No one moved. Later, in the car, Jean fell asleep against my shoulder. I stared out the window, watching the city blur, trying to process what had just happened. You didn't have to do that, I said quietly. Yes, I did. They'll never accept me. They will. Kale glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Because I've made the cost of rejection very clear. Back at the penthouse, after Jean was settled in bed, I found Kale in his office. He was standing by the window, drink in hand, shoulders tight. Can I ask you something? I said from the doorway. Always. Do you regret it? Answering that message. He turned, expression unreadable. No. Even with everything it's cost you? It hasn't cost me anything. He set his glass down. It's given me something. What? Purpose. He crossed to me, stopped close. I've spent years building empires, acquiring power, playing games with people who see everything as a transaction. And then you sent that message. And for the first time in years, something mattered beyond profit margins and contracts. My breath caught. Kale, I'm not asking you to stay forever, he said. But I'm asking you to consider that maybe this isn't charity. Maybe this is choice. For both of us. The baby kicked, sudden, firm. I gasped, hand flying to my belly. Kale's eyes widened. Can I? He hesitated. I took his hand, placed it where the movement was. We stood there, his palm warm against my stomach, feeling the life growing beneath. I'm scared, I admitted. Scared of wanting this. Scared of needing you. Scared that if I let myself believe this is real, it'll disappear. I know, Kale said softly. But I'm not going anywhere. The baby kicked again against his hand. Kale's expression cracked open. Wonder and something deeper, something that looked like promise. Neither am I whispered. If you've ever been terrified to trust something good, you understand this moment. But sometimes the scariest thing is admitting you don't want to run anymore. Final chapter, the choice that changes everything. 3 months later, the city looked different. Not because it had changed, because I had. I stood on the balcony, late afternoon sun painting everything gold, and watched Jean play inside with blocks that now lived permanently in his room. His room, not the guest room. The pregnancy had progressed. 7 months now, belly round and impossible to hide. Movement constant. Kale had been there for every doctor's appointment, every middle of the night panic, every moment I'd felt too overwhelmed to breathe. He'd kept his promise. All of them. You're thinking too loud. I turned. Kale stood in the doorway, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disheveled from Jin's earlier demand to play. He looked different too. Less cold. Less isolated. Just thinking, I said. About choices. He crossed to me, leaned against the railing. And I could leave, I said, testing the words. The baby's healthy. Jin's thriving. I have savings now from the job you helped me get. I could find a place. Start over. Kale's jaw tightened, but he nodded. You could, but I don't want to. His eyes found mine. No. I took a breath. I'm still scared, still worried this is temporary, still waiting for the moment you realize I'm not worth the complication. I paused. But I don't want to leave. Good, Kale said quietly. Because I don't want you to. Jean ran out onto the balcony, laughing, crashing into Kale's legs with the confidence of a child who'd never learned to fear touch. Kale lifted him easily, and Jean wrapped small arms around his neck. Kale, can we have pizza? Jean asked. We had pizza yesterday. But I really like pizza. Kale looked at me, one eyebrow raised. I shrugged, smiling. He makes a compelling argument. Pizza it is, Kale agreed. Jean cheered, squirmed down, ran back inside to tell his toys the good news. We were alone again, the city breathing below, the sun sinking toward the horizon. I meant what I said at the pack meeting, Kale said. You're mine to protect. I know, but you're not my possession. His hand found mine. You're my choice. Every day I choose this. Choose you. Choose them. The baby kicked, and I felt it echo where our hands touched. Even when it's hard? Especially then. I leaned into him, felt his arm come around me, solid and sure. Inside, Jin's laughter mixed with whatever cartoon he'd convinced the smart TV to play. Outside, the city glowed with evening light. What happens now? I asked. Now we have pizza. Kale's voice held the ghost of a smile. And tomorrow we figure out tomorrow. That's not much of a plan. It's enough. And somehow, impossibly, it was. Because justice sometimes looks like a stranger who answered when no one else would. Like an alpha who chose protection over profit. Like a wrong number that found exactly the right person. Like safety that stopped feeling like a cage and started feeling like home. Kale? I said softly. Yes. Thank you. For answering. His hand tightened on mine. Thank you for asking.